Hi. First of all, I made a new account because my boyfriend uses Reddit and I don't want him to see this post and feel any worse. Basically, my boyfriend, 21M, has a massive guilt complex and it makes me, 22F, feel bad for him and myself. For a little background information, we've been together for a bit over 2 years and he's the best person I have ever known, and I am absolutely head over heels for him, and have no desire to split up over this. Also, to my knowledge, he doesn't have any traumatic experiences that could be the cause of this. He has some bad anxiety and some insecurities, and has had some depressive episodes in the past, but overall I don't know why he's like this. Essentially, he doesn't let me or feels uncomfortable whenever I do anything nice for him, or even if he gets his way. A few examples. Whenever we go out to eat, he always tells me to pick where. Even though I'm not that picky, and whenever I win out and insist on him picking, he chooses a place that he knows I like even if he doesn't particularly like it. Because God forbid he gets something that he wants that I might not like. He doesn't want me to celebrate his birthday, and when I asked why, he said that it made him feel guilty that he got a day to himself and that I was giving him gifts and stuff, even though he enthusiastically celebrated mine every year. He will always insist on paying for everything, even for little things I just buy for myself, because he feels guilty if I have to pay any money for anything. He gets very uncomfortable whenever I give him compliments, not because he doesn't like compliments, he told me he loves them, but because he feels guilty about receiving them and doesn't know what to immediately say back to return the favor. For example, once when he was getting ready for class in the morning and the light was coming in at a particular angle and reflected against his eyes, making them a beautiful glistening blue, and I couldn't help but tell him that he had the prettiest eyes I have ever seen. After I told him this, he pretty much stuffed and then quickly responded with something like, "You too," and left. When he came back, he gave me a box of chocolates he got from the store and said that he felt bad for not having complimented me first and having responded with something better, and that I shouldn't have to say nice things to him. It has even seeped into our sex lives too. He's extremely selfless in bed and won't let me give him any pleasure directly. Like, he loves to go down on me. Actually, it's his favorite thing to do and he does it all the time, but he refuses to let me go down on him. I asked if it had to do with his past or if he wasn't a fan of the idea, but he said that he liked the idea but would feel guilty being the main recipient of physical pleasure. Even after I told him I wanted to do it for me, he said that he'd still feel guilty for receiving physical pleasure while I don't or something. He feels guilty receiving any gifts, even for Christmas, but always makes sure to go all out in giving me stuff. Whenever I do get him something, even if it's small, he gets me something twice as valuable the next day because he feels guilty about it otherwise. He won't talk about his problems or his feelings with me very much. When I asked him why, he said that he'd feel bad being an emotional burden to me, but he'll happily try and make me feel better when I'm sad or give me a person to vent to. We rarely have big arguments or fights, but whenever we have, he always apologizes. Even when looking back, I was clearly in the wrong, because he felt guilty for having made me mad even when I was totally unjustified. Generally, he just feels guilty if I do anything nice for him, but will always go out of his way to do nice things for me. Before you guys say that it sounds extremely exhausting to deal with and that you'd leave him if you were me, there are so many positive qualities about our relationship and about him that totally overshadow this. I used to think of it as a cute quirk of his, but now it's making me feel sad because I know he feels this way all the time, and it makes me feel selfish for receiving everything I do from him and not being able to give back. It's not like he doesn't enjoy when I do nice things for him. He has told me multiple times that he loves it, but he just has an overwhelming feeling of guilt whenever I do. How can I help him not feel awful about receiving any time of pleasure in our relationship? TLDR. My BF feels extremely guilty whenever I try and do anything nice for him, but has no qualms about doing nice things for me. He has told me he likes when I do nice things for him, but his guilt eats him up when I do. Is there an underlying issue here, and can this be fixed, or is this just how he is? How is the relationship between his parents? Would he be willing to go to therapy? So it definitely seems like you were describing me at 20. There's most certainly trauma, whether he acknowledges it or not. And people gotta understand that trauma doesn't have to be connected to one major event. Small accumulated cuts can quickly add up. Therapy would be a great opportunity for him. But it's entirely dependent upon two things: his willingness to learn about himself and how well his therapist can help him navigate that journey. Even without trauma, some of us are conscientious to a fault. There's never a better time than now to reprogram. Greater than, is there an underlying issue here? There's massive underlying issues here. He has no self-respect and self-esteem and no sense of self-worth. He feels horrible when somebody invests in him because he feels he's not worth it. What's robbed him of these things? Greater than, can this be fixed, or is this just how he is? That depends entirely on him. He's got work to do. Sounds like he needs therapy. Something must have happened in his past for him to be this way. You could try having a discussion with him about how his guilt complex is actually what creates an emotional burden for you, and that in order for this to be a good relationship for you, he needs to try and work on this with a professional. Getting over a guilt complex can be hard, because any step towards being okay with people being nice to you is literally the thing you're not allowing yourself. As in, he doesn't feel entitled to feel good, and therapy would help him feel good, so getting therapy must be wrong somehow. By framing it as something he would actually do for you, it might be possible to push him towards it. Be kind about it though. But it's not okay that he's treating you like this. Doing nice things for people is one of the bigger joys in life, and he's taking that from you, and that's not fair. Info. How much do you know about his previous relationships? And does he act like this with only you? Or also his family or friends? It sounds to me like he was in an abusive relationship previously that led to this. Possibly one of the tactics being to do something nice for him, only to turn it into a reason to abuse him when it wasn't immediately reciprocated. I don't know much about his past relationships. I think he dated one other person before me, but I'm not sure. I'm not usually around when his parents or friends are, so I wouldn't know about anybody that, unfortunately. Therapy. In the meantime, when he expresses guilt that he doesn't know what to say in exchange for a compliment, sad face, tell him to just say, "Thank you." Remind him he deserves compliments and you love giving him compliments. When deciding on places to eat, it's honestly annoying to be the one to choose every time. Especially when the other party gives virtually no input. My boyfriend and I occasionally play 3, 2, 1. One of us picks 3 places to go eat. The other picks 2 of those 3 that they like. And then the first person picks the final place to go. That way the more decisive person is still picking, but the less decisive person is able to have input without guilt or stress. It really sounds like he grew up abused, at least verbally. Guilt, and fear of doing something wrong that will make you stop loving him, seem more intertwined here than is healthy. Try to encourage him to get a therapist, but assure him that you love him no matter what. He's a victim of either direct or indirect domestic violence. This often happens when we as me are the victims or children of same. Sounds like something that could have been written about me. I was thinking the exact same thing. It was like reading something about myself. This sounds more like low self-esteem than a guilt complex. If we don't feel worthy of love, or don't feel that we can trust others, we push it away to protect ourselves, test the relationship subconsciously. I also have a bad habit of doing this kind of stuff. I'm autistic, but wasn't diagnosed until my 30s, so one of the ways I found of coping was to kind of mirror other people's likes and dislikes. Because freestyling honestly usually just ended up with them looking at me side-eyed. And over time you get out of the habit of engaging with any type of disagreement or confrontation, as this just never ends well for you. I don't think there's anything you can do to change it. If he doesn't view it as a problem or want to discuss it, that means you definitely don't have any control over it. And besides, criticizing someone with low self-esteem or a fear of rejection only makes things worse. I say enjoy being adored in bed, myself, but refuse to pick all of the restaurants, lol. This dude needs piles of therapy. Try to bounce it back. How does it make him feel to celebrate you? Good, right? You want to feel good celebrating him. He makes it very difficult with this behavior. What if you were not accepting of any form of love or affection like he is? What if you were constantly telling him you aren't worthy like he is? Wouldn't that make him uncomfortable? Oh wow. It seems we're dating the same person. Something that's helped me is just refusing to engage with the guilt. For example, he feels guilty for celebrating his birthday? Cool. Unfortunately, he's dating me, and I celebrate birthdays. He's just gonna have to suck it up and enjoy himself. I see you doing some of this. But you don't need to convince him that feeling pleasure is good, actually. He will have fun, damn it, regardless of how he feels about it. Also, he won't talk about his problems or his feelings with me very much. When I asked him why, he said that he'd feel bad being an emotional burden. To me, push back hard on this, because this right here is going to kill your relationship. If you can't be emotionally close to your boyfriend, then that's a huge problem. It's much harder for him to fake celebrate his birthday than it is for you to not bring it up. He will have fun, regardless of how he feels about it. That's staple gaslighting. Not saying you're a terrible person, but that's a terrible way of handling this. Don't know what advice to give you here, except that everyone is right. Therapy is what he needs. I struggle with this exact same thing too. Not to this degree, but I can tell you from my own experience, it has nothing to do with the love he feels for you. If anything, this shows he absolutely adores you. But someone has made him believe he is not deserving of receiving these back. I can tell you from experience it's agonizing to try to accept things when you've never genuinely had it before. My last partner of 3 years helped me through this. I'm not saying you need to be the one who heals him, but through very slow introduction to compliments and gifts, it became easier over time. But he needs to be able to take that step out of his comfort zone and allow himself to be uncomfortable in those moments to allow you to show him the love he deserves. Every time he doesn't allow you to do that for him, or goes out of his way to make up for it, he's subconsciously telling himself he isn't worth any of it. I hope he can overcome this. It's an incredibly hard way to live your life. I am your boyfriend. Not literally, obviously, but this is how I am. I'm older, but the root cause for me was an abusive first marriage. It left me with exactly zero self-worth. Unfortunately, there isn't really a quick fix, at least, that I've found. As time goes on though, I find the patience and understanding, and most of all love, of my current wife is helping. He needs a therapist. I'm kind of like your boyfriend. I love to give, and feel uncomfortable receiving. Years and years ago, a woman I was dating gave me the shock I needed to change my behavior. She told me I was the most selfish person she'd ever met. When I expressed confusion, she explained that my refusal to accept help, love, kindness, compliments, attention, etc. forced everyone else into a very specific role with me, and no one else was ever allowed to feel generous, kind, or good. You're the only one allowed to be the good guy, and honestly, it just makes you the biggest asshole. It's cruel to refuse to allow others to be kind. She was right. Your boyfriend, without knowing it, is being really selfish by rejecting acts of selflessness from others. Ask him how he'd feel if everyone else acted like him and rejected his kindness. Good luck. Lots of good comments here already, so I'll just say this. You cannot fix another person. We only have control over ourselves and how we respond to others. I recommend dialectical therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy. Workbooks are also excellent and can be as effective as therapy. What is going to tough is 1. Getting him to be willing to change. You can encourage him, but only he can truly empower himself. 2. Dealing with whatever you talking about this with him will likely trigger. Use I statements. I am concerned about your health. Could be a possible lead-in. Let him know this is affecting you as a team and together you can help each other as a team. This issue is negatively impacting his life. He needs help. I want to remind you that you can't make him get help. Peace be with you both, sparkling heart. Your boyfriend definitely has experienced something traumatic in his past to feel and behave this way. I think he needs professional help. He may have experienced something he doesn't want to discuss with you, since he also would feel bad for emotionally unburdening himself on you, that he needs help to deal with. I mean, theory is the main advice, but just also try pointing out that when he does things for you he doesn't feel bad cause he has to do them or feels pressured to do everything for you, and he probably feels good about doing nice things for you. Just point out that this is the same way you feel, that he is kind and generous so you want to be kind and generous back. It's likely because he has absolutely zero self-confidence. Been there. Took about 4 years of therapy and I'm still uneasy about getting compliments and accepting gifts, but I've learned to just say thanks and try to move the subject on so that I don't make a huge deal out of something they didn't really think much of. There may not be any one point of trauma to point to what caused this. A lot of times it can be just a gradual wearing away through the years. It could have been caused by any number of people in his life, or even just himself alone. I suggest cognitive behavioral therapy, which is what eventually worked for me. I still hate it and feel so stupid doing it. It feels like I'm trying to be one of those annoying, always overly positive people while I'm trying to sort myself out, but it actually does work. Good luck to him and you guys, and I really hope he can get help. You guys sound like a great couple. Sounds like he's codependent. Codependent people tend to be people pleasers and feel guilty when people do things for them. Codependency. This is my boyfriend to AT, and I posted about it in another sub before with no helpful info other than break up.